Hello everyone. It's time to start putting some work into the 86 Ford Ranger diesel powered 4x4 truck. This truck was painted 20 years ago and life got so busy it has sat neglected ever since. But I'm wanting to get it put back together and roadworthy again. The Ranger is barely movable now because I think the brakes are frozen up on it. I had the transfer case in 4-wheel low range to give the drivetrain enough torque to just drive it up to the garage. So the first priority is to get the brakes working as good as a daily driver should be. I'm obviously starting with the rear drum brakes, which it turned out needed a lot of work, but weren't causing the frozen brake drag problem. First I tried prying the driver's side drum off, but man did I underestimate how stuck this drum was. It didn't budge. Some penetrating oil might help. Applied to the lugs where they stick through the drum, and to the center hole of the drum, which is actually where it's stuck. I can turn the drum by hand, so I know this isn't the source of the extreme rolling resistance. After a little more prying, it was time to apply some heat. These little love taps aren't going to help at all. More heat, although I don't want to overdo it and possibly damage the axle seal. A little more heat. More lame tapping. It's hot. Too hot to touch. More prying. Trying to put outward pressure on the drum while tapping the axle inward, hoping to pop the drum loose. I can see the drum flexing when I do this. I'm prying out on the top of the drum here. You can see the steel plate on the drum flexing around those stud holes. That's not what's holding it in. It's hung up on the center here. So I didn't realize the four-wheel drive was engaged and the front hubs were locked, so I couldn't turn anything here. So I freed the front hubs, put the transfer case in neutral, and now it's obvious that the rear brakes aren't what's causing the drag on this truck. When you put it in gear and try to drive it, it feels like someone's got their foot on the brakes really hard. So it must be the front brakes that are causing the drag, because the rear brakes really aren't dragging. You can hear the shoes rubbing on the inside of the rusty drums, but they're not causing all that drag. I'm still going to work on getting these off though. I want to inspect the brakes, make sure everything looks okay. Probably replace the wheel cylinders because they've been sitting here parked for like 20 years. And I'm also going to replace the rear brake hose back here before I go up front and work on the front. And I'll be replacing the front brake hoses as well as working on the calipers if they're frozen, and that's what it seems to be at this point. I don't have a big enough puller, so I'm stuck with using hammers, pry bars, and heat to try to get a drum unstuck. More pounding. Time for a heavier hammer. This is a 3-pounder. This is a rock hammer. There's no sign of movement. The only way I'm getting this drum off is by splitting it. The blade is cutting the cast iron drum easily. I'm cutting at the top so as not to cut into the brake shoes. Not that that would matter. I'm being mindful of not cutting into the backing plate, so I'm holding the blade at a steep enough angle. The outer band of the drum was cut almost all the way through, so I used a hammer and cold chisel to try to split it the rest of the way. Cutting some more, holding the blade back enough so it doesn't touch the backing plate. That got it. The drum came loose on the center of the hub. If you take a few pictures before you disassemble the brakes, you won't have to try to remember where everything goes and then forget, like I would do. I can see right in there with the lens, and the flash works. Gives me a good picture of how everything goes back together, and like which spring overlaps which, things like that. So there's a couple of specialty brake spring tools that anyone who's going to work on brakes should really have. It's totally worth getting them. It's these spring pliers. These also the handles twist the springs off on the top, and this handle helps you put it back on. This pulls springs this way. You can actually put one tip of that into the rivet and grab a spring and pull it on that hook. This thing needs lubrication. Then there's one of these tools which goes on these retaining springs. That'll be the last thing I take off. Well, you push the spring in and twist and it pops out. I'm going to start with a clean drain pan under here just to catch all the fallout. So you take the end of this, put it over this spring stud with that part, that protruding part there. Have that extend inside the opening of the spring, and give it a twist and pop it off. Same thing over here. Some of this stuff really is heavily rusted. I got new wheel cylinders just because I know I'm going to need them. Not even going to wait and see. I'm assuming I'm going to need new wheel cylinders. Boy, heavily rusted in here. These spring retention caps are rusted hard together. They're supposed to push in to compress the spring, then rotate a quarter turn to release the cap from its pin. If the easy way doesn't work, you can grab them with a pair of pliers and work them in different directions to loosen the grip the rust has on them. I had to reach back and hold the back side of the pin to keep it from pushing inwards, which keeps it locked into place.
There's a pin here. It comes in through the back, protrudes through a hole in the shoe into this spring and into this locking cap that goes over it. You turn it 90 degrees and it holds. The spring pressure holds it in there. This thing is so heavily rusted it's like ready to break in two. It's a good thing I got new brake hardware, because I'm going to need it. Yeah, these are so heavily rusted. This truck's been sitting in a garage or in a barn for 20 years. So I guess I don't blame it for being rusted. Just rusted together. Let me get that spreader bar out of there. I don't know if I got a new one of those.
It turns out these brake drum bars are actually available at a national brand auto parts store, but they're $15 each. So I'll be painting the rusty old one and reusing it. That's a really nice feature of these Ford drum brakes. The parking brake lever simply unhooks from the rear brake shoe.
That hook's in there. The spring hook's in there. Oh, and it comes right out. I hope I got a new one of those. All these parts are really rusted.
Notice the length of the rear brake shoe lining.
So there's one shoe. That's the rear shoe. I hope I have new adjusters in there. These are completely rusted and they're dry. I mean, just totally dry rust. So it's really hard to get it to come apart.
Notice how much shorter the front brake shoe lining is. These shoes need to be installed in the correct position, with the front lining that's shorter in the front and the rear lining that's much longer in the rear.
The backing plate is pretty crusty, but it's still very solid. So believe it or not, this brake cable, it appears to be completely free. I can shove it in and out of there just as smooth as can be. So that's good. I don't know if I can slide this spring back and get this out of here or not. Yeah, not too hard. Not too difficult. I just wanted to take it out so I can clean it up. There's a Bendix part number on it. Alright. So it's a different day. The other day when I took this side apart, I went ahead and took the other side apart. There's no room to record over there. It's too close to the wall. But that brake drum came off pretty easy. It really wasn't stuck on there. I just had to pry it a little and it came right off. So it's actually in not bad condition. And back in the old days, I would have got this turned down and resurfaced. It does need to be resurfaced, but this is still good to use. However, I'm not going to do that, because I already went ahead and bought 2 new drums. So unfortunately, they're not coated, they're just bare metal. So I'm going to paint them. So I'm going to remove the wheel cylinders, and these are held in by 2 bolts through the back of the backing plate, and they have a 3/8 inch hex head, if I can get on it. Wow, it's not even that rusted in. That's good. It's real good. Okay. Well, those are coming right out, so I'm going to leave them snug to back up right now so I can remove the brake line from the wheel cylinder first. I should probably put some penetrating lube on it first. But that's awesome, it's not stuck. Work it back and forth once it's a little loose. That just helps to clean out the threads as you're turning it. It's nice that things aren't really rotted out back here. I mean, there's some rust, but it's not rotted out. It's really nice. There it is. Those threads aren't even rusty. Super nice. So I have my bottle of dirty kerosene here. I use it for cleaning parts like this, really grungy parts, and then I save it for next time. I'm starting with this plastic parts cleaning brush. The bristles are actually pretty stiff and they're kind of abrasive. With kerosene, because I'm going to wire brush this thing, but The wire brush will blow up so much dust and dirt. And I'd rather clean it off as much as possible first, get it kind of not so dry anymore, and then it won't make as much of a dust cloud. This would have been a good time to wear some of those rubber gloves. Okay, I'll just let that drip dry, and then I'll move on to the other side and do the same thing.
After threading the camera and tripod into position between the drive shaft, exhaust pipe, and fuel tank, the darn thing started without recording sound here. There's no redos in Videoland, so I did my best to make it work. It isn't especially difficult to replace the rear brake hose, unless the fittings are very rusted. I loosened these flare nut fittings off camera. They were very tight and took some force, but they're in good condition and unscrewed relatively easily. There's two flare fittings screwed into a small distribution block at the end of the flexible rubber brake hose. Then the mounting plate for the whole thing is held in place with one small bolt that came apart easily. It also just clamps around the parking brake cable to hold it in place. I moved a drain pan under it to catch the drips. Installing the new brake hose is just the opposite procedure. I just had to be a bit of a contortionist. I couldn't see over the top of the pumpkin, so it took a little finagling to get that bolt started. All of the steel brake line tubing back here was in very good condition. Barely rusted at all. The story I got was that this truck spent most of its time on a farm in New Jersey. So the body frame and components are in very good condition all over, for the most part. My camera mounted LED light went dead, so I tried to compensate by adjusting the brightness during editing. It doesn't look great, but at least we can see what's going on under there. I needed more light. This is the other end of that brake hose. It's connected to steel tubing at a bracket on the truck's frame.
Wow, that came loose just like that. It was hardly tight at all. I thought I rounded the nut, but it actually just came loose and it's spinning very easily. And I know you really can't see it, but I definitely can't see it either. Oh, I can turn it by hand. There it is.
There's a U-clip holding the hose end into the bracket. I was definitely in the wrong position here. I was trying to get it without moving. The old hose is out. The new hose is going in.
Can't see from here. So.
The hose end isn't symmetrical. Even though it looks like a hex nut, it only goes in one way.
So this is almost a hex on it, but one side I see is rounded. No wonder it won't fit just in there. It has to be in a certain orientation. And it looks like the rounded part needs to be up. Like that. I don't like having it twisted that much though. Can't twist it that way. Okay. Okay, that's that.
This is Uncut Super Clean. It's a biodegradable detergent product that cuts grease and oils and does a good job in general cleaning. As I found out, it's best to wear gloves and otherwise protect your skin, eyes, and lungs. This is potent stuff that burns your skin and lungs on contact. You don't want to breathe this mist. I was better prepared when I did the other side.
Wow, don't breathe this stuff in. It's pretty strong. This is Super Clean, Tough Task Cleaner Degreaser. Dissolves grease, super easy, super fast. It's biodegradable detergents. You can use it for tough jobs, you can use it straight, or you can dilute it. for lighter jobs. I'm using it straight. I got these plastic brushes at a dollar store. This one's from Brillo. And the reason I'm trying to be so meticulous cleaning this backing plate is that I want to get all the oil and grease off of it, so I can paint it and the paint will stick. So after you clean it, you just rinse it off. This is just water. I can actually see rust flakes rinsing out of there. I could blow the water off of this with the air hose, but I don't want to go blowing water all over the place here. I just hit it with a hot air gun and hopefully it'll dry up pretty quickly. This plate is actually quite warm now, almost hot. So it's going to dry off. This is Rust-Oleum 2X Ultra Cover paint and primer, Canyon Black Satin. Good for wood, metal, plastic, and more. Fast drying indoors and outdoors. I put it on so heavy it's going to take quite a while to dry, but that's okay.
It dried amazingly hard after 2 days. I couldn't scratch it with a screwdriver.
It needs a nice thick coat. I've got to protect these backing plates since you literally can't order them by the regular stock part number anymore. There's another stock number I think might work, but I still have to confirm that. Put a little never sees on these pads here. These flat spots are the spots where the brake shoes rest against. And if you don't put a little something on there, they will rust and they will start to squeak. Every time you hit the brakes, you'll hear a little squeak. That's what that comes from. Okay. I'm going to put some Never Sees on this flare fitting and on the tubing that's inside of it. Let's see. It can't hurt to put it on here. And the brake adjuster, the threads on the brake adjuster. Will certainly benefit from some Never Sees. Screw that all the way in like this, just for assembly. Then on this end, put it on there. Like so. There's a little flat washer spacer sort of deal that goes on there. And the other side of the adjuster goes over this pin. Like that. It actually gets installed under here in this orientation. Going to put some Never Sees on this brake bleeder screw. I've always done this, and it really does seem to help. These are my new wheel cylinders, which I thought about painting, but I'm going to pass on that for now. Or forever. And this is ready to go in. Okay, got that started. Put Never Sees on these little bolts that hold the wheel cylinder in. Oh, there it is. Nice and tight. Nice and tight. Don't over tighten it. And I need to tighten that flare nut fitting back here. That is tight.
Hit pause for a minute to look at the diagram. This is the best one I found, and it closely resembles the drum brakes I'm about to assemble. It isn't possible to see everything on camera because the axle hub blocks the view of what I'm doing.
Putting these two pins in, you just go through the hole in the back like that. I'm going to loosen this bleeder screw back here to allow air to escape when I push these pistons in. They're spring loaded.
The freshly painted parking brake lever simply hooks onto the back of the rear brake shoe. But before that, it has to be hooked onto the end of the spring-loaded parking brake cable. Hooking the brake lever to the back of the brake shoe. Inserting the brake bar and spring and installing the shoes at the same time requires 3 hands to hold everything in place until they're all secured. This is an awkward process. Align the retaining pin with the correct hole in the brake shoe. Position the shoe against the pads on the backing plate. After putting the brake shoe retaining spring in place, it's a little tricky to hold the shoe and get the spring compressor aligned with the spring and pin. Push straight in on the spring, keeping it centered with the pin until the pin protrudes through the spring cup. Give it a quarter turn to lock the cup under the head of the pin. Getting everything secured all at the same time is a bit of a balancing act. This was recorded out of order. I had to take it back out, but this is my best clip of the star adjuster being installed and what it looks like, so I included it here.
So in order to get this little cable wrapped around its guide up here and hooked into the adjuster lever, and then the spring from the other side also hooked into that, I had to remove the adjuster. So now I need to spread these out and get the adjuster back in. Hopefully that won't be too hard. There. Oops.
This wasn't going well. I wasn't able to get it this way, so I tried just hooking the spring to the adjuster lever without the adjuster cable hooked into it. That got that. Now all I have to do is figure out how to hook the cable into that slot in the adjuster lever with the cable running over its guide and hooked to the top pin.
So I had to get this bottom spring hooked up to this adjuster lever. So I pulled the top springs off. Remember when I disassembled it, I took the top off first and the bottom off last? Well, I have to put the bottom on first and the top last. So now this hooks into that lever.
Inserting the cable guide. That just pops into the spring hole in the shoe.
This spring holds that in, so that's got to be in there.
I know some of you are going to say that cable eyelet goes onto the stud first, then the two springs go on top of it. But I couldn't find a way to do that, so I put the eyelet over the first spring and put the next spring on top of it. This seems unorthodox, but it's the only way I could get it. Now I have to get the adjuster cable onto its guide. There's so little space to work behind the axle hub, it makes it pretty difficult to assemble these parts.
Not going to let this thing get stuck on here again. I'm going to cover this whole face with never sees. And especially down in here where it was stuck. So I painted these new drums inside and out. Oh, it doesn't seem like that's going to get stuck. So here's another tool that would do the same job or a similar job. And a brake adjuster. So I'm going to go into the back and actuate that star adjuster to spread the shoes out until they make contact with the drum.
I'm inserting the brake spoon into the adjustment slot in the backing plate. When I locate the star wheel adjuster, I can pry it up or down to adjust the brake shoes.
That's pretty good. You can hear it rubbing, but it's not too tight. I'll make it just a little tighter. Okay, it's good enough. I'll adjust it more once I'm done bleeding the brakes and I have pedal.
The final task of replacing the wheel cylinders is bleeding the air out of the brake lines and cylinders, but I'm working on the front brakes next and then replacing the master cylinder. so there's no point bleeding the brakes right now. I'll do that at the end after everything else has been completed, but not before tearing into the 4x4 locking hubs and replacing the front axle U-joints along with everything else. There's even some bonus information for four-wheel drive Ranger guys. Thank you for watching. Please take a moment to like and subscribe.